Did you use the podium over here?
Annie Ewing, 2211 Eagle Farms Road. I just had a question. It was unfair to me from the conclusions here, whether you were assuming Chester Springs Road opened at Eagle Farms or closed when you made the recommendation for the stop.
We actually looked at it under both conditions. Obviously, it's closed now.
Right.
When we looked at the origin destination patterns of the area and the traffic volumes collected with the three intersections, we did look at what potentially may divert to Chester Springs Road. And from our perspective and a number of the engineers in our office, it didn't seem to result in an increase or significant increase in traffic. So the recommendation of a potential multi-way stop there will still function very well as far as delay and level of service during the week out.
Thank you.
Sure.
Brian, any improvements made to 401 and Byers Road intersection, would that alleviate any traffic congestion up towards Upper Euclid?
Well, I believe it would. I think, the signal would disrupt traffic on Conestoga Road for the intent of providing safe access from Byers. So that's the purpose of the traffic signal. Signals, by and large, don't really improve efficiency, but they're put in for safety reasons. But what the signal would do is allow traffic to more safely traverse Byers Road, access Conestoga Road, and also it provides some gaps or some breaks in traffic on Conestoga Road and potentially a positive impact on the speed points further to the west.
I'm going to give you a scenario just for truth in advertising, so to speak. I wasn't there, but I believe Mike Schneider was sometime last fall, when some West Pikeland residents at Twin Hills, I believe, was asking their supervisors to close Eagle Farms Road. Is that accurate?
I'm not aware of that.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Can you fill us in on what was actually said then, Mike? And didn't West or Upper Euclid jumped into that conversation?
Well, West Pikeland was getting calls from their residents saying that if South Chester Springs Road closed their road, why can't we close ours to lower our traffic? And then Upper Euclid got wind of it, I guess through the supervisor at West Pikeland, and said, well, then everybody's going to come through our township, and if that happened, we may have to sue or something. They were just throwing things out.
I have another question.
What effect would that have if they did close Eagle Farms Road through to the traffic patterns? Did you take that into
Well, we didn't take that into
No.
consideration, no, not at all.
I had heard from one of their supervisors that another proposal, rather than traffic light, was being looked into a circle. Was that given any?
It was given some consideration, and we're talking about what I would call a modern roundabout, not what people are normally used to as traffic circles if you've been to New Jersey. So this is a relatively recent initiative undertaken by PennDOT, which other states have used successfully. This intersection would function well with a roundabout, and what we're talking about is probably a diameter of anywhere from 100 to 120 feet. The implementation of that at the intersection would certainly require some right-of-way acquisition. But I think if, PennDOT's current rule of thumb with regard to installing any new signals, that they would also look at a roundabout. So it would function adequately there. I think it's just a question of practicality and cost given the right-of-way that may be necessary to do it.
Which takes up more space, a traffic light with a left-hand turn lane or a roundabout?
It may be similar in this case. Yeah, if we do the left turn lane on Conestoga Road, that may also require some right of way. So I think the next step would be to take that issue and look at it in further detail.
Which intersection are you talking about now?
Byers and
This is a Byers Road.
And 401?
Yes.
George just threw me off.
Sorry.
Well, a traffic light without a left-hand turn going westbound on 401 might be a little helpful, but the answer is, with a traffic light, you're going to insist upon a left-hand turn lane? Yes, no?
Given the traffic volumes and our experience, I believe PennDOT will do everything they can to insist on one turn lane being put in there with the traffic limits. So that would be something that would have to be addressed in more detail.
Jim, sorry to make you do that. You're gonna get your exercise.
That's right.
Eric, Jim Helm, 2563 Veronica Drive.
Great.
Thank you for your analysis and your report. I have a couple of questions about some of the information there. In the line of sight information, you mentioned at South Chester Springs Road and Route 401, you listed 2 underneath the minimums at a 35 mile an hour, and your report said 85% of current traffic, there's not enough line of sight in either direction, in a direction. Could you expand on line of sight and what needs to be done for line of sight?
Sure. I think when we look at corner sight distance, which means pulling out from, for example, Chester Springs Road, you look to your right, you look to your left, what we desirably do is meet a certain dimension that would allow you to either cross the intersection or pull out and not really interfere with Main Street traffic. But in no condition there's 2 criteria. One is the desirable sight distance. The other is what I would define as the minimum sight distance. The minimum sight distance allows a car traveling at an assumed speed on the main street, if they had to come to a stop, for example, before they would hit you if you're crossing from the minor
Right.
street. And what I presented in the report was those
Minimum.
2 criteria,
Right.
as well as the differences between the posted speed, which is 35 in the vicinity of the intersection, and when we measured the actual 85th percentile speed, which means the speed that 85% of the people are traveling at or below. And it's usually a good reflection of what most reasonable people feel it's safe to travel on that road. Those speeds were in the 47 to 50 mile per hour range. So that sight distance that we presented was what would be ideal to do to address that.
So
speed
with-
that's actually occurring out there.
So with those sight distances, do you consider that intersection to be safe or unsafe right now?
Well, it's safe if driven safely, I'll say it that way. I mean, when we look at the accident
But
rate,
85% are not driving safely, right?
when you look at the accident rate is remarkable.
That's my next question. First, I wanted to find out, from a line of sight perspective, is it safe or unsafe?
Well, the turn restrictions that are in place, if you're familiar with those.
Sure, I am.
Which southbound Chester Springs is only allowed to turn right, thereby negating any effect from traffic traveling eastbound on Conestoga Road. And I believe eastbound Conestoga Road is restricted from turning left onto northbound Chester Springs Road. So those restrictions were put into place to try and offset that.
Offsets 2 of the 4 directions.
Correct.
Yeah, it
So if
leaves the
those-
other 2, and I would point out your analysis of turns says the turns all go the other 2 ways. So almost all turns go in the 2 remaining ways where there's short line of sight.
Sure.
So can we come back to that question? I'll go to accidents. Do you consider right now the intersection from a line of sight perspective safe or unsafe?
Well, again, I wouldn't say it's unsafe. The purpose of our intersection analysis was to say, here's what we could do to make it safe.
Would you say that it's not to minimum standards? That's what your report says, so.
Well, I would say that the site distance we use is fairly conservative as well. So I would say if that intersection was constructed today, it would not be put in with those constraints, that's for sure.
Right, okay, enough said there. Not accident rate, as you said, let's look at the accident rate. You chose to give us 2 pieces of information in your analysis. Accidents attributed to some vehicular traffic exactly at the corner, and that are in the vicinity of the corner. Why did you do that?
That's the way the data was reported to us. So when PennDOT keeps their records, they keep accident data that's directly related to an intersection. I believe that some of this may have come from the township as well. And then there's accident data that comes up within a certain distance of the intersection. But in this
And you
case,
think 100 feet is not that close to the intersection, is
I
that
think
what
it's
you're
more than
saying?
100.
I can answer that, I believe. It's between 100 and 200 feet that the additional accident data, and that's normally attributed to road conditions or speed, but not turning.
Yeah, and in this
So-
case, I think most of those are probably attributable to, obviously, the curved geometry through there.
So your report in the day that you analyzed it showed 81 turns at the corner. If you add up the ins and the outs onto South Chester Springs and Route 401, around 80 turns on that particular day. Fairly low volume, and you said it was low volume just a few minutes ago. The accident rate, let's use your actual number, which is an accident a year. Do you consider that high or low for such a low volume? 80 turns in your audit, only 80 turns, yet an accident a year. Do you consider that high or low?
I would still consider it low. When you look at the 8,000 to 8,500 cars on Conestoga Road,
Yeah.
it's a relatively low rate.
And do you consider the accident rate at Byers Road high or low? There were more accidents in a 7-year period. I believe you listed close to 30 accidents, and I believe that adds up to about an average of 4 accidents a year. Do you consider that high or low?
I consider it near the high side, yes.
Yeah. I'd like to point out for the board that the accident rate per turn, one at South Chester Springs on 80 turns, but there's over 1,700 turns going on at Byers Road intersection. The ratio of accidents to turns is 20 times higher at South Chester Springs by your own analysis. Am I stating that correctly?
Well, your interpretation of correlating it to turns, I can't argue with that, but that's not.
So I am stating that correctly. That's your analysis. I just want to point that out to the board, that you have a frequency that matters here. You know, a lot of things that we do out here are dangerous. And when you do put more cars through a dangerous intersection with a high rate, the accidents will go up. I think this data exactly says that the restrictions placed by the prior board members through the years to restrict turns left and right, to restrict the road access, have paid off and lives saved because of the accident rate. It's still very high. It's higher than what you just said was the Byers' bad high accident rate. So that's all I wanted to say on the accidents. Because I think your data speaks for itself. The analysis was done on October the 20th or 21st, right, of 2016.
Well, we collected data that entire week, so
That
it's
entire
7 days
week.
worth of data, correct?
Okay. Now, I'm not sure exactly when Lennar started selling houses. It's close to that, but they weren't there yet. These people weren't there yet. So you're doing an analysis on traffic flows of a development not yet occupied. And the difference between now and a year later is there's a lot more homes living in the vicinity of Eagle Farms Road than when you did your first analysis. So I just want to point that out, that this work was done and then projected that traffic won't try to take South Chester Springs when there was a low volume of traffic on Eagle Farms Road. My final comment is I completely understand why when you look at the conditions of South Chester Springs Road, that you would conclude that why would anyone of their right mind go from Eagle Farms Road and turn onto South Chester Springs Road when it's narrow, windy, with a horribly dangerous corner with short line of sight. You wouldn't. And I think that your analysis said people aren't going to take this road, and I think just gave you the rationale why I think you're right. They won't want to take this road. But people do crazy things in a rush to get to work in the morning and finding a shortcut. And I believe that opening this corner or reassessing this corner is the right thing to do, to reassess it, but to open all the traffic to take through it without making fixes to this corner, I believe opens us up to more accidents.
When you say fixes, to which corner?
South Chester Springs. I'm not dealing with pipe, with pipeline.
And Route 401?
Yes. Yeah, I think we have to deal with the corner. We have to get on the 12-year plan. We have to make substantive changes. putting a stop sign there and begging people to run into the back of the cars when they come over that ridge going eastbound, just drive there. See what you mean. They're going, your own analysis said they're going 50 miles an hour and they've got 100 feet to stop short at the stop sign.
There's
So-
multiple ideas to slow traffic, and
I get it, Tom.
there may be unintended consequences. You're exactly right, so it's gotta be monitored and changed accordingly.
All right, thank you for answering my question.
You're welcome. Thanks, Jim. Yes, sir.
I'm Darrell Sanders, 2619 Chester Springs Road.
Thank you.
Just let me tell the board a practical experience since 1998, living on Chester Springs Road and making several thousand left-hand turns onto 401,
And you're still alive.
and I'm still alive. But the reason I'm alive is because if you're in the habit of making left-hand turns in 401, you become savvy quickly. So you know exactly when to hit the gas in order to make it, because those people coming over the crest of the hill are not going 35 miles an hour. They're going close to 50, 55 miles an hour. And that's the people that live there, and there's low traffic, low volume, but they've learned how to make a left-hand turn from Chester Springs onto 401. If you open that road up and traffic and people come in that really have no idea of what that intersection is like, they're not gonna be savvy as to how to manage that particular corner. I think the accident rate is going to go up. The other thing that happens is during the summer, when we talk about the line of sight, that line of sight would have to be grandfathered because no road intersection today would allow that line of sight. But during the summer, when the weeds grow up, the line of sight is nowhere near what it is in the wintertime. So your ability to make a left-hand turn then has to be even a little sharper. When I heard that there was a move afoot to open Eagle Farm Road to Chester Springs, I could not believe that would really be a serious consideration. Jim is exactly right. The number of homes now on Lanier and that now are going up and down Eagle Farms Road. I used to go up and down Eagle Farms Road when it was a dirt road, there was no traffic. As they've improved it, the number, because I ride my bike down there, the number of people and the number of cars is exponentially increased. I think they will turn on the Chester Springs Road. A good number of them will. I can see 20 cars at this stop sign. The bridge at St. Matthews has 20 cars, 25 cars. So if you're going to stop cars at the bridge of St. Matthews and then put a four-way stop sign on Chester Springs Road, the amount of traffic that is going to be stopped and slowed on an already busy road. If the traffic at the light on 113 is backed all the way up to Byers Road day after day after day. So to try to put another four-way stop sign there to slow traffic, I can't understand how that would happen. The other thing is, you can warn people about that intersection. I still think it's a serious accident waiting to happen for people that aren't used to going through that intersection. That's mine.
Thank you. Jennifer, couldn't see who it was.
Jennifer Farnham, 2665 Chester Springs Road. I read through the study, and I was quite perplexed because the study is based on current traffic. So the study does not take into account future traffic from major developments and future connections between those developments, including 250 homes with Lennar Fire Station Phase 2, 500 plus homes of Toll Brothers Fire Station Phase 1. That connection between Phase 1 and Phase 2 did not happen the day of the study. I know that because I live right there and I observed. So today, the amount of traffic that goes between Fire Station Phase 1 and Phase 2 is substantial. It's a major thoroughfare. So to say that nobody would make a left or come down Chester Springs Road is very, very naive, unless you were stopping all the vehicles and asking them, would you turn left if you could? This traffic study doesn't even account for Pulte, 250 plus homes by Love's Corner. So we have at least 1,000 homes not accounted for that are going to utilize the 401 corridor, as I call it. That's substantial. When you talk about the number of vehicles that 1,000 homes could bring about, that's 4,000 to 6,000 more vehicles, more trips per day. It's staggering. So unfortunately, when you consider our road and whether it stays closed now, there are legal agreements that brought about its closure, so I don't know how a traffic study could negate that. But none of this has been considered, and that is highly concerning. To piggyback off of Daryl and Jim's comments, quantitative factors are one thing, qualitative factors are another, and that is the experience of driving through this intersection multiple times a day, every day. I take a gulp every time. I make a right out of Chester Springs Road on 401, and then making a left. When I'm making a left, people are coming behind me at 45 miles per hour plus. I put my turn signal on way before the left, before the turn. And I've actually had to abort my left-hand turn because I know these people are not stopping behind me. So I would tell everybody, rely on this study to actually drive this. It's a much different experience. And speaking of my left-hand turn from 401 back onto Chester Springs Road, the sight line, I think, is in error. It speaks to something around 300 plus feet. That's if you're at the corner about approaching the left-hand turn. Frequently, you have to come to a complete stop because you can't clear the left turn. At that point, you're at less than 100 feet, sight distance feet, maybe 50. And you're at a complete stop trying to cross traffic going 45 plus miles per hour. It's hairy. And I know that my tail has just about cleared it a couple of times. So that's an error. The other error identified was it noted the speed restriction was to 35 miles per hour. That's not correct, because as you're going westward on 401, approaching Chester Springs Road, there's a speed reduced notification sign that notes past, so the 35 mile per hour restriction is past our road. It actually doesn't apply to right in front of our road. And hence, I think why nobody pays attention to that miles per hour signage anyway. As noted by your study, they're going well in excess of that speed, but that 35 miles per hour is actually not correct. In terms of the crashes, I would include not just the 5, but there's an asterisk noting that if you count all accidents within the vicinity, it's actually 11. So, Jim, I'm not sure if your numbers reflect that, but
They did not.
They did not. So, I used to be a former auditor in CPA, so I'm really into like substantiating facts and numbers. I would never not contemplate the full accident range, because I'll tell you, the number is now 12. I was passing, there was an ambulance call just on, what day was it? Friday, Jim? So have a picture of it, you need to see it. And when there's an accident within the vicinity, which I've seen before, there is no reaction time for others around it. So the danger factor is just sky high. And when the ambulance was there was no police presence, nothing. Cars pulled to the side, the ambulance tending the situation. I mean, just unacceptable.
Jennifer, if I could, you're assuming that no improvements would be made to that intersection, regardless of what happens to South Chester Springs Road. I think I can only speak for myself, but his report offers at least 4, maybe 5 remedies or improvements for that intersection that I think need to be addressed.
Does that address the sightline?
Yes, one of them. It's not going to be a perfect thing, but that is addressed. It's in,
And just to go back to our earlier comment, everything you're saying emphasizes the need for something like a multi-way stop there, which people will get used to.
How in the world could people traveling eastbound be able to prepare to stop unless you are seizing property and creating major sightlines? You have curves and hills and no ability to stop.
We do it with lights, with a light
Motion
saying there's
sensor.
red light ahead.
Brian, can you explain
There's
it?
advanced warning signs, there's advanced pavement markings. There are ways of improving the sight line potentially.
Well, it goes back to my point that you haven't considered 1,000 homes that will be accessing this corridor, and that's huge.
If we do nothing to that intersection, okay, or South Chester Springs Road, where are those 1,000 cars going to go?
If you do, I'm sorry.
Where are those 1,000,
If I do nothing to what?
if nothing changes from today, where are those cars going?
They're going down the 401 corridor.
They're
And
from,
utilizing all of these intersections. So there's
Which intersection?
Chester Springs Road, Byers Road. This additional traffic is going to be,
exactly.
So we have to do the improvement to 401 and Chester Springs Road.
right,
If all those, if
I'm
we're going
pointing,
more traffic down South Chester Springs Road, we have to do something to 401.
okay, well, I'm just pointing out that this study does not account for this
Right.
additional traffic. And that would be a huge impact to it.
And that'd be more
Um,
strength in our
I think
ability
that
to get PennDOT
that's
to do something.
possibly why PennDOT, you've had discussions with PennDOT, and they agree, but without, they think that improvements can be made to this, correct?
Yeah, they've been positive towards it. I mean, I have certainly no official answer on it or any commitments on their end, but when we approached them with these ideas, they said that they may make sense, but they require some further evaluation.
The conclusion of your report, don't let me put words in your mouth, but is the next step is to get the 3 townships with PennDOT and make a plan.
That's correct.
Not only for what needs to be done, but who pays for it and any grant funding that may be available.
That's correct. Yeah, I think what we're bringing to the table are all the data that PennDOT would normally go out and collect themselves. So you've just made it a way of expediting any decision or a plan to get something in place.
Now, would we also be able to address the additional traffic by the next 3 years of 1,000 more housing?
Certainly.
Okay.
Sure. I think the one thing to understand too is if we do make an improvement at Chester Springs, if we do put a multi-way stop, that potentially increases the amount of traffic that can be safely accommodated by Chester Springs, because you're now creating gaps on Conestoga Road, much like a traffic signal would. So
If the enhancements are,
it'll take actually a lot of the concerns away that we heard about the difficulties in making those turns.
but there is a chance that any, or certain improvements would have an adverse effect too.
Certainly, I mean, excuse me. Any new measure on Conestoga Road is going to hamper the efficiency of Conestoga Road. Just like a signal would now stop traffic that has free flow conditions. Similarly, if a multi-way stop or some other configuration change occurred at Chester Springs, what you said is true. It is going to slow the traffic on Conestoga. It is going to create, I think the other gentleman brought up that there may be a queue of some vehicles there as they go through the stop sign during peak hours. So those conditions are going to exist. It's all about a trade-off of what's the best overall solution.
And the St. Matthew, down here, St. Matthew's and 401, the addition of a 4-way stop sign, I thought was going to be horrific but it hasn't turned out to be.
I actually agree, except the whole entire configuration and the sightlines are remarkably different, so they are
There's no-
nowhere apples and
there-
oranges. And
there's
here,
no
I'll just tell you, it's a lot different living there. So again, the quantitative data can say something, living and experiencing is another, and I come out here speaking very, very adamantly, and I'm scared for my life, and I don't think that the traffic patterns and people's, safety concerns and conscientious will increase just because you add some signs. And that, I think this is a hugely serious set of
Taking it very
considerations.
serious, and I've written down every one of your concerns.
Okay, well, we're here speaking like this because we're concerned for our lives.
I know you are.
No joke. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, Ron?
Ron Grossman, 2659.
Thank you.
I think from listening to everything, the real concern is opening Chester Springs Road, because that's where that would be increasing the traffic that would cause the most problem. Now, if we opened Chester Springs Road, would that mean we'd open up Page also?
You mean Kennard up there?
Yeah.
I haven't had any discussion on that at all. No.
Didn't we have this in a discussion earlier with neighbors from that area? And wouldn't that just open up, increase the traffic coming over?
I can only answer it, we haven't given that any consideration.
Okay, and then wouldn't also, I just heard of this one, the Sunderland Avenue?
That's
With-
the new road?
Yeah,
This new road, that was passed under subdivision years ago, and then it was, I forget how, but it was decided not to be done, but then there was a lawsuit involved, and it was just declared that they have to put it in.
and that will open up more traffic to Eagle Farms, correct?
Yes,
Far away from,
it connects Eagle Farm further south into the Toll Brothers portion of Phase 2.
But if
It connects essentially. to
Chester
the
Springs was
Farm
open, that would
Phase
increase the
to
potential
Toll.
for additional traffic that's not in the Freeport, right?
You didn't take it, well, no, I don't think they knew about it.
No,
They wouldn't
we
know
just
that.
started this.
Okay, well, I can only second what the other folks are saying.
Those cars that run, they're gonna go someplace. They're not gonna disappear.
Everybody
My
appreciates
point
that.
is- My point is, if there's two bad intersections on 401, and you're saying that they're not gonna go, all this traffic, and where are they gonna go? They're gonna go out to those same intersections, and we have to address that.
I can reinforce what Jen said. I've been there since '99, and negotiating that term is entirely different than looking at statistics, because it is,
I agree.
and putting more traffic, your biggest liability is coming out of South Chester Springs. The left-hand turn is the worst, you just have to go. Right isn't a piece of cake, but it's a hell of a lot easier than going left. And that's where this, I see the potential as something really, really.
Right now, we
unfortunate.
have the interest of PennDOT, I put the words in your mouth, to fix as best we can, without any 12 or 15-year, those two intersections. And that's our goal.
Okay. I don't think anybody's arguing fixing the intersection. But putting more traffic through that intersection, which means opening Chester Springs Road, that's the problem.
I understand.
Because it's,
And that would probably be another study at that point, after the improvements are made. Then another study would be, what would the effect of opening that road be? Additional traffic, whatever. That would have to be another look.
I think some of the passion you might be seeing from residents versus people who read the data is just a fact of living. It's an entirely different thing when you know firsthand what happens there. And I'd imagine all of you combined, having spent an hour or so standing there looking at traffic in rush hour going through that intersection, the speed and the volume of traffic. Now, when you live with it, you get a totally different feel. And it's, stats might say one thing, you can draw whatever conclusion. That's the problem with statistics. First-hand experience, tremendously different than statistics. So, I can't emphasize too strongly that we're asking for trouble. So, and I assume nothing's going to be decided tonight, right? And Joe, we've got a meeting with retained counsel, and we'll be meeting on the 31st, is it?
I'm not sure what the date is.
The next managers meeting?
I don't know what the date is. Do you know what it is, Eric?
No, it would be in April. It would be
April 3rd, 4th.
I have to look myself. But March is a long month, so then that would be the third Friday. We had our staff meeting on the last week.
Anyway,
Yeah, we'll put it
Well, anyway, I was under the impression it was the
maybe something different.
9 a.m. on the 31st,
Okay.
so.
Well, that's, Eric, maybe you can confirm that with them, so there's no mix-up.
Our group has retained David Brunin, and we were expecting a meeting on March 31st.
I didn't.
Is that a Friday?
Yeah,
You had your meeting last Friday? So that's Friday,
So
right?
you and I should get together then and talk about that.
My idea,
And we'll do that.
you asked, process, was to get this meeting over with, have this discussion, have input from you folks, okay? Then plot the next course at the next meeting. If that entails just going forward with the other townships on 401, or some remedial action or opening in South Chester Springs, that's at a future meeting. And we will not do that without you folks being there and participating.
good, thanks.
But confirm that meeting, because I'm not sure when it is, but confirm it.
I'll do it through Dave. Or
Eric,
There for the 31st.
the lawyer.
We just met on the 17th. Yes, it is not, that's not according to our township's Not every 2 schedule. weeks. Yeah, so this is new to me, which is fine. We just have to look at our schedules and make sure.
Okay, well, I'll have Dave
That'd be fine.
get in touch.
That'd be fine. Okay,
Right.
for me, that's fine.
Any other comments? Right.
This is a question that one gentleman mentioned about growth in the summertime they can't see, and that intersection has a very short sideline. Would reducing the embankments alongside of 401 in that area down to grade level instead of having them be so steep improve the sightlines at all?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is PennDOT amendable towards that idea?
They may be. I mean, that's one of the items that would be a natural course of discussing with them. I think there is limited right-of-way, so PennDOT can only control what's in their state.
I understand that part, but taking it out to the edge of the right-of-way might improve your sightlines a good bit. And I don't think I've read that in the report, so that's why I'm just bringing up that issue.
No, that's certainly something that could be discussed with them. When we looked at it, and we looked at aerial photos and other highway plans provided by the department, we put the required sight lines on the intersection, and it significantly encroached on the right-of-way. So that while it may be easy to improve slightly within the right-of-way, we didn't see a large benefit, or we didn't see it was possible without right-of-way acquisition, and that would be a much bigger and more expensive project.
I understand that part, and there's also some rises in the road that cut you down to it. I just wondered about that. Okay, thank you. And I'm Brian Curry on Blackhorse Road.
Thank you.
Sarah, go ahead.
Are you recommending opening South Chester Springs Road at Eagle Farms?
No, we don't have a recommendation either way.
Okay.
We were simply asked to
Thank you.
put in the report.
Are you guys seriously
options.
considering that option?
Take out the word seriously, and yes.
If it makes sense.
Okay, just to tweak Jennifer's numbers a little bit, those 750 of those 1,000 homes are on the other side of that barrier at the end of South Chester Springs Road. So at this point, they would not be coming out South Chester Springs Road. They'd be going either way on
That
Eagle
was my
Farms.
point, yes.
And the Pulte project is 184 or 188 total homes. And they're going to go someplace, of course, but they won't all be on 401. So, thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you, Sarah. So we're just going to end it. Brian, thank you very much for staying up late, and
Sure, you're welcome.
we will be in touch with you, and we'll, I guess, get together with the other townships. Do we need to change it? What's that? I don't think so.
Okay. I don't think that's needed, but maybe we can just.
Joe, we don't need a motion for anything. Thank you. We're going to continue on then. Brian, thanks again. New business, Pottstown area, health and wellness, Township training.
I make a motion that all applies to the Township Health and Grant for Township Trail.
Erica, you want to fill us in what this is?
Sure. The Pottstown Area Health and Wellness Foundation has a spring grant round. They do fund capital projects. We had submitted a letter of intent to apply, and we were provided a go-ahead at the amount of $25,000. The grant is due April 5th, and all we would need is a motion to approve moving forward. We would be applying for that $25,000, and you do need to provide a match to that amount. The projected construction for that phase, it's phase 2, I'm sorry, I did not clarify that, to move forward would exceed that. So we are working on that application, and it seems like it would be a nice opportunity.
Any questions for Erica on that? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item.
Vote.
Oh, if you could,
Oh, I apologize.
or you know, maybe you didn't get it.
Motion is second.
Any questions from the audience? I already asked that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry about that, I was dreaming of the number 11. Number 11 is the Griffith Farm property. Erica, I have something that you're going to address this, but
No motion.
there's nothing in the
Okay,
packet.
I can just, if you like.
Sure.
Sure. The township owns the Griffith Farmhouse, and we also own open space. There's 2 separate parcels. For some time, I know that the farmhouse itself has been used, leased out for some tenants over the years. That has pros and cons for the township. At this point, what we really are looking at is simply maintaining the structure. So we have decided to explore the possibility of selling the property. Of course, we would need to look at different provisions on that property, on the history, in moving forward with that, do our due diligence on that. But that is something that has come up in looking at township assets. So that's really where we are, and we'd be looking for authorization to explore the feasibility of selling that.
Is that a motion?
That was not a motion.
No. Do we need a motion?
Well,
Really, a consensus is fine. Yeah.
Consensus. If
I agree.
It's out, yeah, so, do you have any additional comments or anything?
board have any comments?
I think we ought to look into it without predeciding.
Yeah.
Erica mentioned 2 parcels, but you're talking about selling the one with the farmstead.
Yeah, I think it's 2.8 acres.
That's what I was saying, that's probably
Yeah.
big it is.
Mhm.
Okay. At one point, the township had considered moving some of the township's function to that space. Whatever
Yes.
happened with that idea?
We had, about a year ago, there was some initial work done on the feasibility study that we currently have out to bid. In discussions previously, and really with staff, and it's just, there's really, again, right over Route 401, when you're looking at access, or, I'm sorry, I'm talking about Route 401, Route 100, there's a lot of limitations there. And just the property, it was just, we were seeing dollar signs. So it's just determined infeasible. But thank you, it was brought up.
The access up of Route 100 isn't very good.
Yeah.
The house and some of the other structures are in usable condition, but would require some work.
Yeah.
And
For a commercial operation, we consider it a lot of work.
for anything, but any rest of
Well,
it.
I thought what we considered at one point was moving emergency management out there or offering it as a space to ambulance service. There was some other organization that was interested. And since you own the adjacent property, you can fix some of the site plan. So I was just, thank you very much.
Any other comments from the audience? Well, we don't have to take any on, but can you
Bring
put
it.
together an action plan possibly? for
Sure.
that? Thank you. Next is a new subdivision application for Eagle Farms in Sunderland Avenue.
I make a motion that the board acknowledge receipt of the Eagle Farm subdivision, Sutherland Avenue.
Second.
Just for the audience's sake, this is that road we were talking about a few moments ago that was the subject of a lawsuit between, I believe, the developer and Upper Euclid. And they were not going to put the road in, then they were sued, and now they are forced to put the road in.
Yes.
So this is being put in where the original plan and specs had it, okay, which is through our township.
You know you don't have to do that?
Say that again?
You don't have to do that on a
Because it doesn't affect
subdivision?
us.
No, on a subdivision, you don't acknowledge receipt. It goes by the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting, or if there is no planning commission meeting, then 30 days from when you got the plan. It has nothing to do with the board of supervisors.
I think it's just past practice,
Yeah.
but yeah, I see what you're saying.
And I like keeping the timetable the day we receive it anyway, so you don't have to do that calculation.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to keep going, it's up to you. There's no legal requirement.
So we're accepting it, and we're going to, well, we don't have to accept it now. But we're going to send it to the planning commission. Any other committees need to see it?
It'll be reviewed.
By, do any of the other committees have to see it?
Yeah, our township engineer.
No, I'm talking about sustainability or EAC.
Hasn't been
Anybody else have-
determined,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't want to leave those folks out. They,
I certainly understand.
Harriet can get very nasty when she wants to.
You said she was the nice one.
What's that?
You said, hey, it's on the tape, Barry Scott, you said she was the nice one.
She's giving me the evil eye right now. Okay, moving on. Authorization for advertising for bid documents for Hollow Bridge repair.
I make a motion that the board approve the advertisement of bids for the Hollow Bridge repair. All road bridge repair.
Second.
This is just so everybody knows, there's a couple bridges on Hollow Road. This is the one closest to Horseshoe Trail, correct? And it's the culvert issue on the bridge.
On Hollow?
Yes. Okay. Any questions from the audience? Yes, Brian?
Do you have any idea how much it's expected to run?
I don't, but these things aren't cheap.
About roughly 100 to 125,000 is the estimate.
That's for all, each one of them is in that range?
No, Hollow Road.
Okay. Any other comments? Jim?
Yeah, those estimates were in the annual road project report, weren't they? Is this consistent with that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But there's things that can happen, like bog level reports and
Oh, yeah.
all sorts of stuff that can delay this until you and I are old.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the last item is authorization of advertisement for the bid document for French Creek Arch replacement.
I make a motion that the board approve the authorization of advertisement of bids for the French Creek Road arch replacement.
Second.
Any comments from the audience? moving right along. All those in favor?
Aye.
No, higher, about 250.
Last has, on the back. Advertisement for Horseshoe Trail and Indian Road paving projects.
I move that the board approve the authorization of advertisement for bids for the 2017 paving projects, including Horseshoe Trail and Anthill Road.
Second.
Any comments from the audience? Brian Trout.
Horseshoe Trail, is this between Hollow Road and St. Matt's? Or
No,
where?
no, before that.
No. Davis and
Is
Horseshoe
it
Trail.
Davis?
From Davis Lane
Davis
up to
and, I'm sorry, St. Matthews.
St. Matt's.
Yeah, that's it, same area.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just for, a little bit before that, Fellowship and Davis, finishing up that whole section. Yeah.
Okay, and Nandale Road, I thought we repaved that just a couple of years ago.
East Anthill paid their section last year, or the year before. But from Traeger Road out to River 100 hasn't been paid.
I've got to go look through some older meetings. Yeah.
Well, especially from the firehouse to
Yeah,
River
that
100 up there.
section. Yeah.
Any other comments? We'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
And last item on the agenda is public comment on non-agenda items. Harriet.
Excuse me, that was tonight, right, it's 1645 Richmond Road. Close it, got it.
Mic drops.
Just hold it. The Historic Resources Committee is concerned about all the wonderful historical information we have here in this building. We need to have someone who understands how to get all that information scanned, stored digitally, and figured out how to manage it so that we won't lose that information. And what?
You're backing it up.
We're backing it up. Thank you, Mike. My techie's telling me. So if there's anyone who has any ideas of how to find some help or is willing to give us some help, please let me know.
Harriet, is there any documents that would be better served by having some sort of professional display case for the lobby for that sort of thing?
We have some things that have been given to us over the years, some things that are of historic interest, and that's a different issue. We've got, John Eldridge wants us to take on some artwork that shows things in the township 50 years ago that people who just moved in now would have no idea of understanding where that was. So we want to get things like that identified, but we're not calling for that stuff right now, please. We've got
Okay.
enough. But we would like a little more storage for the binders in the foyer, but I'll talk to Tammy about that. And the other thing is that the amphibians, I don't know what they've done. Most of them, there are lots of them have certainly migrated. They're singing in the pond, and I don't know if they're through, or they're as confusing as people. I'll keep you posted if I run anything.
Harriet, a question for you. Has anyone approached, like, the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts? Maybe it's a project for them for scanning those documents as a project?
They might be willing to do that kind of basic, put it in the scanner, take it out. But I think I want someone who's a higher level manager. of how to- But, yeah, that's a good idea once we figured out how to pull it together.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Jim Berge, 1433 Birch Run Road. I'm really glad to see that Hollow Road is being addressed. It's been, really dangerous situation for a long time. However, there are lots of other roads in this township. Flint Road certainly needs a lot of attention, has for years. I've been here for 18 years. And
Flint Road is absolutely the worst.
It is. But there are a couple others too. Shady Lane, for example. There's been a lot of coal patches there over the course of the winter, and then, of course, they don't stay in there at all. Janie Lane, right by my house, washes out continuously. There's been talk over the years of fixing that, and it has not been addressed since I've lived there. And the question is when. I know that Mike, who was one of his important platforms in the election, and quite frankly, aside from a couple of patches, I haven't seen much progress in the improvements of our roads over the last year or two. So I'm wondering when is that going to happen?
It's on the road program. Have you looked at our road program on the internet?
No, I have
We have a
not.
complete road program of all roads and what needs to be done to them, and I guess we have estimates of when it's going to be done.
Okay.
That Janie Lane, I thought was going to be done this year, but
The bridge is kind of screwed.
And it's very expensive, and it's, to do it correctly, there's some definite analysis,
So I thought we were
survey.
getting some funding this year for that. I thought we were getting funding
For
for,
the gravel road program?
yes.
Yes.
And wasn't that on there?
Bartlett and Green Lane. But the good thing is the Conservation District, which funds that program, has seen our entire road program and wants to help in future years. So that funding was 2016 funding, which means we're going to be set for 2017. That funding, we were looking at a $50,000 project. Janie Lane is quite substantial, very much needed, I do agree. And that's been echoed by the board. So it's prioritizing things, and again, these bridges have just been something to address this year. So just chopping those things into manageable pieces has been the
originally,
task.
I think when the road program came out, the thought process was we could break it up into two sections, taking care of the drainage issues and then paving it the next year. We were advised that that's just not going to work. It has to be done. And then because of those two numbers together, and I forget the number, it's a big number.
Yeah.
It was held up until next year, but it is definitely a high priority.
Yes.
Extremely high, even though it might not be as bad as Flint Road is, it's a higher priority to
Yeah, more years.
Yeah.
The other question I have is what is the status of the covered bridge on Hollow Road? And who's going to pay for that?
It's a PennDOT bridge, and they're repairing it as we speak, I believe.
Yes, it's actually county owned, but PennDOT is involved with the assistance for some funding, I believe. Crews have been on site, working on that now, which is good, considering, the timeline on some of these projects can take a while. So they're out there now, and, we're getting status reports. We'd like to see that opened up by the summer. So,
In
yeah.
answer to your question, the county may be writing a check that you're paying for it.
Are we
Okay,
all?
okay.
Yeah.
How about the ladies' insurance who wrecked the bridge?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the only issue I had was, it seems like a long time since these roads have really been attended to, and quite frankly, I spent more on auto repairs this year than I spent on local taxes. So, just comment.
Look at his tax bill, maybe we could adjust it.
I'd rather pay more taxes than fix my car.
We agree with you, the three of us are committed to the roads, extremely committed. Any other comments? Then I'll entertain a motion to end this meeting. All those in favor? Thank you, folks, for coming.